There's a moment that happens to every traveler who steps off the plane in Japan for the first time, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not Mount Fuji appearing through the clouds or the neon lights of Tokyo that first takes your breath away. It's something far more subtle, far more profound. For me, after months exploring the bustling markets of Seoul and navigating the ancient hutongs of Beijing, that moment came in the most unexpected place, a train station bathroom at midnight. I stood there, stunned, staring at a toilet that greeted me with a heated seat, ambient music, and more buttons on my smartphone. But this wasn't about technology showing off. This was my first glimpse into something I hadn't encountered anywhere else in Asia, a society that had thought about my comfort before I even knew I needed it. The shock didn't stop there. It multiplied, compounded, and completely rewired how I understood what a country could be. South Korea had impressed me with its lightning-fast internet and K-pop energy. China had humbled me with its scale and history stretching back millennia. But Japan? Japan operated on a different frequency altogether. Within my first 24 hours, I watched a taxi driver wear white gloves and bow as I left his immaculate vehicle. I saw a convenience store clerk wrap my rice bowl like it was a precious gift. I witnessed a construction site surrounded by walls decorated with apologies for the noise, complete with flowers. These weren't tourist attractions. These weren't performances. This was just Tuesday in Japan. What hit me hardest was the quietness. After the honking symphonies of Beijing and the energetic buzz of Seoul, Tokyo's silence felt almost eerie. I stood on a platform at Shinjuku Station, the busiest train station in the world, handling over 3 million passengers daily, and I could hear myself think. Thousands of people moved around me like a choreographed dance, and yet nobody was shouting into phones. No music blared from speakers. No street vendors called out their wares. When the train arrived, perfectly aligned with the platform markers down to the centimeter, people formed orderly lines without anyone telling them to. They waited for passengers to exit before boarding. Every single time. No exceptions. I realized I was witnessing something my other travels hadn't shown me, a society that had elevated consideration for others into an art form. The food culture delivered another shock entirely. In Seoul, I'd fallen in love with sizzling Korean barbecue and vibrant street food. In China, I'd marveled at the regional diversity from Sichuan fire to Cantonese delicacy. But in Japan, I discovered that eating wasn't just about taste. It was about reverence. I watched a sushi chef in a tiny Osaka restaurant spend 3 minutes preparing a single piece of nigiri, his movement precise as a surgeon's. He explained that the rice was seasoned with a specific vinegar blend, held at body temperature, and pressed exactly 23 times to achieve the perfect texture. The fish had been selected at the market that morning based on the weather, the season, and even the ocean currents. This wasn't a Michelin-starred establishment. This was a 12-seat restaurant tucked under a railway bridge. This level of obsessive dedication to craft existed everywhere, from the cheapest bowl of ramen to the finest kaiseki meal. Then there was the paradox that defined everything, Japan's ability to honor its past while racing into the future. In Beijing, I'd seen ancient temples surrounded by modern buildings, often feeling like two worlds uncomfortably coexisting. In Seoul, the drive toward the new sometimes seemed to overshadow the old. But in Kyoto, I walked through streets where wooden machiya townhouses stood beside cutting-edge architecture, and somehow it all made sense. A craftsman who'd spent 40 years perfecting traditional paper-making techniques explained his work to me while checking his smartphone. A temple priest maintained centuries-old rituals in the morning and managed the temple's Instagram account in the afternoon. Japan hadn't chosen between tradition and innovation. It had woven them together so seamlessly that the distinction became meaningless. The convenience of daily life shocked me repeatedly. I'd grown accustomed to carrying cash everywhere in China, adapting to Korea's unique payment systems, but Japan took practicality to levels I didn't know existed. Vending machines sold everything from hot coffee to fresh eggs, positioned on nearly every block and somehow never vandalized. Convenience stores, open 24 hours, everywhere, offered restaurant-quality meals, paid bills, provided package shipping, and had impressively clean bathrooms. I could buy concert tickets, withdraw cash, and pick up a gourmet bento box at 2 a.m. The country seemed engineered around a simple question: how can we make this easier? And then they actually implemented the answers. But what truly separated Japan from my previous travels was something invisible, something I only understood after weeks of observation. the concept of Meiwaku. In both China and Korea, I'd learned to navigate crowded spaces with assertiveness, to speak up, to claim my place. Japan taught me the opposite. Meiwaku, the fear of causing inconvenience to others, governed everything. People apologized for sneezing. Mothers carried special bags to collect their children's crumbs on trains. Restaurants felt genuinely distressed if your meal took longer than expected. This wasn't about politeness as performance. It was a deeply embedded value system that prioritized the collective over the individual. Initially, it felt restrictive. Then I realized this is why Japan works. This is why trains run on time, why streets stay clean without trash cans, why you can fall asleep on the subway with your phone on your lap and wake up with it still there. The safety became almost surreal. In Seoul, I'd been cautious at night. In Beijing, I kept my belongings close in crowded areas. In Tokyo, I watched drunk salarymen leave their briefcases. The attention to detail bordered on overwhelming. After experiencing the grand gestures of Chinese hospitality and Korean enthusiasm, Japan's microscopic perfectionism stunned me. Hotels left origami figures on my pillow with the weather forecast for tomorrow tucked inside. Restaurant bills came with exact change arranged from largest to smallest bills, handed to me with both hands. Fruit in supermarkets wasn't just fresh. Each apple was individually wrapped, positioned with its stem facing the same direction, priced based on shape and color uniformity. A cafe owner once apologized profusely because my latte's foam art wasn't up to his standards, then made me a new one free of charge. The first one had looked perfect to me. To him, the swan's neck was slightly too thick. Language became my most interesting challenge. I'd struggle with tones in Mandarin and memorize Hangul in Korea, but Japanese revealed layers I hadn't anticipated. Beyond the three writing systems, I discovered a language structured around social hierarchy and context. The same sentence changed completely depending on who was speaking and to whom. A convenience store worker used different verb forms with me than with her elderly customer. Businessmen exchanged cards with elaborate rituals, the junior person always presenting theirs lower than the seniors. Even the way people said thank you varied based on the time of day, the favor size, and your relationship's depth. This linguistic complexity wasn't a barrier. It was a window into values that China and Korea shared to degrees, but Japan had elevated to an almost spiritual level. The seasons governed life in ways I'd never experienced. China's regional diversity meant different climates in different areas, and Korea celebrated seasonal changes beautifully, but Japan had transformed seasonal awareness into a national obsession. People planned their entire year-round sakura bloom predictions. Restaurants changed their entire menus to reflect what was currently at peak freshness. Department stores redesigned their window displays for each microseason. Even the language had specific words for seasonal phenomena. The particular way light filters through new leaves, the sound of the first autumn wind, the smell of approaching rain. This wasn't romantic nostalgia. It was a living practice that connected modern Japanese life to centuries of agrarian tradition. Every person I met could tell me exactly what foods, flowers, and experiences defined that particular moment in the calendar. The customer service felt almost uncomfortable at first. In Chinese markets, I'd learned to haggle and assert myself. Korean service was friendly and efficient, but Japanese service operated at an intensity that initially made me squirm. Staff members rushed to help before I could ask. They bowed repeatedly as I left stores. They wrapped purchases with origami-level precision, apologizing if the tape wasn't perfectly straight. Once, I bought a small souvenir in Kyoto, and the shopkeeper spent 5 minutes wrapping it in beautiful paper, adding a seasonal flower decoration, and placing it in a bag with a handle position for my comfort. The item cost $8. The wrapping probably cost more. But to her, this wasn't extra. This was simply how things were done. This was omotenashi, hospitality that anticipates needs before they're expressed. The efficiency shocked me constantly. China's size meant occasional chaos and long waits. Korea balanced efficiency with flexibility. Japan had turned punctuality and precision into a science. Trains arrived not just on time, but within seconds of their scheduled arrival. If a train was delayed by even 2 minutes, conductors made multiple apologies. Restaurants served meals so quickly I initially suspected they were pre-made, until I watched chef prepare everything fresh in view. Department stores opened with staff members bowing in unison to waiting customers. Even road construction happened with such organization that workers bowed to apologize to passing drivers. This efficiency wasn't cold or robotic. It was efficiency infused with humanity, a respect for others' time that felt like respect for life itself. What ultimately separated Japan from every other place I'd traveled was this: a society that had asked itself, how should we live together, and then actually built systems, values, and daily practices around the answer. China inspired me with its scale and history. Korea energized me with its modern dynamism and warmth. But Japan fundamentally changed how I understood what was possible when an entire society commits to shared values. The heated toilet seat wasn't about luxury. It was about a culture that believes comfort matters. The quiet trains weren't about rules. They reflected genuine consideration for others. The meticulous food preparation wasn't showing off. It was honoring both the ingredients and the person who would eat them. Every shock I experienced in Japan came back to the same root, a different answer to the question of what we owe each other. Standing in Tokyo Station on my last night, watching millions of people move through their evening commutes with grace and consideration, I understood why Japan had shocked me so deeply. It wasn't the technology, the temples, or the incredible food, though all of that mattered. It was witnessing proof that a modern, densely populated, highly complex society could still prioritize beauty, consideration, and craftsmanship in daily life. That efficiency and humanity weren't opposites. That tradition and innovation could strengthen each other. That collective values didn't erase individuality but created space for everyone to thrive. China and Korea had given me unforgettable experiences, but Japan had given me something more, a vision of what's possible. This is a new channel dedicated to uncovering the layers of Japan that make it unlike anywhere else on Earth. Every video here is about sharing these discoveries, these moments of shock and wonder, and diving deeper into what makes Japan extraordinary. If these stories resonate with you, if you've experienced similar surprises or dream of finding them yourself, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd subscribe and hit that like button. Your support helps me continue exploring, learning, and sharing more of the Japan that surprised me so completely. Let me know in the comments, what about Japan surprises you most? What should I explore next? Let's discover this remarkable country together, one story at a time.